Hi and welcome to the next tutorial. In today's lesson we'll learn how to create and animate this Martini glass using Illustrator and Adobe After Effects. So anyways guys, let's jump in. So the first thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to create a new document. 1920 by 1080 pixels will be fine. I'm just going to press on create. I just need to paste my color scheme that I used from my previous drawing. You can use your own colors if you like, and if you do, you can go to color hunt and make sure you pick some nice colors. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create the background. So I'm just going to get the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle on my screen, and then I'm going to change the color to that darkest blue color there. We don't need a stroke, so I'm just going to press none for the stroke. Now for the actual Martini glass, we need to come over here and we need to find the star tool. And what you need to do is you need to click and drag until you get a nice star on your page, then press down on your keyboard until you get to the triangle. Hold shift to make it straight. We need to also change the color. I'm just going to pick that color right there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it around. Now before I get started on that, I'm just going to change the layer. I'm going to call this one background. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to put the Martini glass in that new layer, and I'm going to actually lock the background so I don't accidentally move it. So once I have my triangle there, I then need to duplicate it by holding Alt and dragging, and then I need to turn it around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten that down and just bring it in slightly so it looks something like that. And even with the top, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten it so it looks something like that. And now the last thing that we need to do is we need to connect it together. So I'm just going to do the same thing with this triangle here, but this time I'm just going to make sure that it's really thin, and I'm just going to bring it in so it looks something like that. And then all we need to do is highlight all of those shapes and then come over here, align horizontally, and that will put them all together in the middle. And that will give us our shape. Now we just have to get rid of this part down here. So what we are going to do is highlight them all. You can come over here to your shape builder tool, and then if you hold Alt and click in this section, you will see that it deletes that part of the shape. Now it's looking pretty good, but we can make it look even better. So what we need to do is we need to have a space for the liquid up here. So I'm going to come and click on this part of the triangle, go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and I'm going to offset it by -20 pixels. Then I'm just going to press OK. And that is actually going to be on a new layer as well. So first I'm just going to fill it in with a color. So I'm just picking any color here. I've got red. And now what I need to do is I'm just going to put that to a new layer and make sure that that layer is on top of all the other layers. So now it's looking really nice, but we need to make it even better. So we're going to come over here to this layer, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the direct selection tool, and I'm going to click this point, and I'm just going to bring it down slightly to give it that nice curve. And I'm going to do the same for the bottom, but for the bottom I don't want to do it too much. So just a slight curve just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to group them all together. I'm going to unite them. So I'm going to click on all those sections. Then I'm going to come over here and then click on unite. And so now if I look at my Martini glass, it's actually looking pretty good. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to create the orange or the lemon that goes with it. So this is pretty easy to do. All we need to do is come over here. We need to grab our ellipse tool and just draw an ellipse, hold shift, make sure that you change the color. I'm using the darker color here. And then I'm going to come to Object, Path, Offset Path, and I'm going to do the same thing again, -20 pixels. And then I'm going to change that color to that lighter greenish or yellow, whatever that is. And then what we need to do is we need to worry about the middle. So I'm just going to grab the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle, and it doesn't matter about the thickness really, but you need to make it consistent. We are just going to change that color back to that darker color there. And then I'm just gonna come over here to the rotate tool and I'm gonna rotate it by 120 degrees and then press copy. And then I'm gonna do the same thing again, rotate by 120 degrees, press copy. And now we've got the base of our lemon or whatever this is. So now once we've got that, all we need to do is just highlight all of those paths and the circle. And then if we go into our Pathfinder tools and then go to -front, you can see that it creates a nice cut out of all of those shapes. So that's looking really good. I'm just gonna call that lemon and I'm gonna put it underneath the glass. So I might as well rename that. And I'm just gonna group them together by pressing Control G. So now when I move that over there, I can put that there. I can make it smaller if I want and put it there like that. So the final thing that we have to do here is the ice cubes. So the ice cubes are pretty easy to make. All we need to do is go to our rounded rectangle tool. All right, draw a rounded rectangle. And then I'm just gonna change the color to that white. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to drop the opacity down. So go to properties and drop the opacity to, let's say 70%. And I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller. Make sure you hold shift and I'm just gonna put it inside of my Martini glass. So I'm just gonna make sure that that's on a new layer and I'm gonna call that ice and I'm gonna put it in front of everything. So I'm just going to move it around a little bit and I'll make another ice cube there like that. So there we go. There we've got ice cubes. It's looking good. The final thing we can add is the shadow at the bottom. So I'll click on a new layer. I'll put it right at the bottom of everything. I'm just going to grab the ellipse tool and I'm just going to draw a ellipse over that section. I'm just going to make it much smaller and I'm just going to change the color to, let's say, a darkish gray, and I'm just going to decrease the opacity there to maybe something like that. And so I'm just going to put that in the center and there we go. So there's our Martini glass in Adobe Illustrator. So now for the next step, we're going to take this to After Effects and we are going to animate that. So once you've created your Martini glass, make sure you come over here and you label all the layers correctly and you can get rid of all the colors. And then once you've done that, you need to save that as an Adobe Illustrator file. So now that we've opened up After Effects, we need to create a new composition, 1920 by 1080. We'll just press OK. And then what we are going to be doing is we need to import our Martini files. Once you've found your files, just import it as a composition and then just press OK. So there we have our nice Martini glass. So I'm just going to double click on this to get into its contents. And here we can see all of our layers. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a rectangle. So come over here and create a rectangle and you can choose your color, whatever color that you like. I'm going for a yellowish color and then just draw a rectangle. Now this rectangle really needs to make sure that you cover the majority of the contents of the glass, especially at the bottom. And once you're happy with that, just move it until it's off that contents just there. So then we're going to open up our position keyframes and I'm just going to click on the stopwatch, move forward in time to about 1 second, and then I'm just going to bring it up, not all the way because we want to leave a little bit of space for our wave. So then talking about the wave, we need to come over to effects and presets and click on wave warp. And then we need to change a few things. So I'm going to bring it back to 0 on the timeline. And I'm going to change the wave height to, let's say 0. And the wave width to, let's say 200. And I'm going to animate the wave height. So I'm going to click on the stopwatch there. I'm going to move forward in time to about 1 second. And I'm going to bring it up to, let's say 20. And you need to just double check and see if the wave is actually going over that point there. And in my case, it looks all right. So I don't need to worry too much about that. But if yours goes over, just make sure you bring your rectangle down. So then I'm going to move forward in time to about 10 seconds, and I'm just going to bring that wave height to about 0. So that will reset that wave. So it comes up, waves, and then it goes back to 0. So now I need to press U on my keyboard to bring up all of those keyframes, and I'm just going to easy ease all of those keyframes and also the position keyframes. And so now I'm also going to go into the graph editor and just apply a little bit of more acceleration to that animation there. And so now when I preview that, it's going to kind of whip in, it's going to have the wave effect. And you can see here that it doesn't really cover all of it. There's a little bit of a part where, for example, like there, it doesn't cover all of it. So what I need to do is just drag this and make it a touch bigger so that it makes sure that it covers all of that section. So anyways, once I've done that, we need to drag it underneath the contents layer. And then you go into your track mat and you click on Alpha Matte Contents. And now when you go and preview that, you can see that the wave is hitting inside that layer nicely, and that's looking pretty good. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate those 2 layers, and what I'm going to do is on the second shape layer, I'm just going to change some of these settings. So I'm going to change the wave width to, let's say maybe 240, and I'm going to change the direction to -90. And I'm also going to change the color. So I'm going to put a, let's say maybe an orangey kind of color like that. And so now when I preview that, now you've got those 2 colors in there going together, and it's looking pretty nice. And the waves are going at different times. So I think that's looking pretty good. The final thing that we can do is we can animate the ice that pops in, and that's pretty easy. All we need to do is set P on our keyboard for position. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move forward to, let's say, 1 second. I'm going to set a keyframe for position, and then I'm going to move back in time, and then I'm just going to drag it up until it's off the screen. And then what I'm going to do is just easy ease those keyframes. And then I'm going to come over to the graph editor and make sure that I bring them a little bit closer together. And so now when I do that, you can see that the ice falls in and you've got this liquid that's moving around. So the final thing that we can do is we can make the ice move around a little bit, and we can do this by holding Alt and clicking on the position stopwatch. And then if we wrote wiggle, open bracket 1,10, all right, and then what we need to do is just preview that, and you can see here that now the ice is moving around. That's looking pretty good. So I think that's about it for this tutorial. So now we've got the ice that pops in. We can also animate the lemon if you really wanted to, but yeah, that's about it. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.